our last episode, we were pinned down by rain while being overwhelmed by temples in Chiang Rai, Thailand. This time around, we hop on a plane, leave Thailand behind, and head to Ho Chi Minh City to start exploring Vietnam. From Chiang Mai in Thailand, it's a quick and easy couple-hour flight to Ho Chi Minh City. But once you arrive, it's an entirely different world. Having just spent a couple of months in Thailand, where the sea of scooters and traffic seemed like chaos, Thailand now seems like child's play.
We made it to Vietnam last night. We walked around for a bit, and I can tell you one thing for certain, this place is different than any place we've ever been. It's gonna be kind of exciting. We're only gonna be here for about 3 weeks, which seems like a pretty short amount of time to see a whole country, but we're gonna give it our best shot. So we're gonna be here in Ho Chi Minh City just for a few days, and then we're gonna move on. But this morning, gonna go get some coffee and watch the madness.
So, we found ourselves a perch above the madness, and we watched. And as chaotic as driving through the city seems, walking isn't much easier.
I don't think I'm ever going to get used to this traffic. It is crazy.
With a blatant disregard for traffic lights and crosswalks, it's a constant game of Frogger. Formerly known as Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City is home to over 8.5 million people. And although we've been in bigger cities, we've never been in a communist country before, or in any city that felt busier. With its French colonial architecture, skyscrapers, dark winding alleys, and a multitude of street markets, it's an interesting city with a ton of stuff to see. And of course, there's noodles.
Where you going?
I don't know. I'm vegetarian.
And since we just came from Thailand, where everything is melt your face off spicy, we had to add a little heat just to feel at home.
We just picked up a bunch of money out of the ATM. If you've ever felt like you're down in the dumps, just a little poor, come to Vietnam, pull out $100 US, and you'll be a millionaire. $1 US equals 23,337 Vietnam dong. So $100, $2,337,000 in Vietnam.
right after we made it rain, look who showed up.
Hi, Jason.
Look, nice
Hi,
and
Jen.
shaken. Made it all the way to Vietnam.
First things first, we gotta power up.
This is a Vietnamese coffee. Sit and let it wait. That's what I've been told. It's very thick. Wow, it's very strong and very sweet. It's very strong.
And once we were powered up with some insanely strong and sweet coffee, we were off to explore the city. And we got out there just in time to watch Vietnam play in the Asian Games on the big screen with about 1 million of our closest friends.
Và giúp chúng ta tự tin hơn, đồng thời cũng đã có một công thức để đánh bại các đội bóng của điểm nhất là lại là Quốc Giang và không bất ngờ về tình hình.
But unfortunately, even with all of our cheering, the home team suffered a loss. With a defeat and some pouring down rain, sometimes you just gotta find a place to drown out your sorrows. And this place here, it was just the ticket. Late at night, the center of Ho Chi Minh City becomes unlike any place I've ever seen. The area known as the Backpackers Hub gets shut down to cars, and the nightlife comes into full swing. It's a place where sidewalks and city streets become makeshift restaurants, and those dark, winding alleyways come to life and beg to be explored. And it's a place where you'll find some amazing delicacies coming from a big old pot and some tiny plastic chairs.
We've been to a lot of places by now, and I've never seen anything like this. It's crazy.
You need spoon.
No, it's okay. It's like a coconut tapioca pudding. It's incredible. Today we're going to Chinatown. Got to check it out. This city is overwhelming, but one of the coolest cities we've ever been to. Pretty amazing.
Nearly 80% of Vietnam's residents are practicing Buddhists. And with Buddhism in Vietnam comes pagodas, some in Saigon dating back to the early 1800s. And unlike the gold-covered temples from Thailand in the west, these pagodas have a much more rustic feel, with weathered and intricately carved details and figurines telling of stories and legends of the past.
This is something I've never seen before. It's online karaoke. You can have a karaoke battle online. We're not gonna do that.
If you've been following our videos for a while now, you may know we've been full-time travelers for about 4.5 years now. And as you might guess, in 4.5 years, we've been to some pretty amazing places. And Ho Chi Minh City, it's one of the most interesting big cities we've been in. It's wild and crazy and loud and obnoxious, but at the same time, it's, I don't know, it's different. It's got this energy that I've never seen anywhere else. It's a pretty cool city. But Vietnam as a whole, it's, I think I mentioned it in our last episode, that it's the place that I wanted to get to most in Southeast Asia. And that's for kind of one big reason. When I was growing up in high school and the little bit of college I had, history was my least favorite subject. I was a math and science guy. But during our travels, the places that have been the most interesting to me have had some historic context. And whether that's a World War II battlefield on some atoll in the middle of the South Pacific, or the Mayan ruins in southern Mexico, or even the ghost town in the middle of Montana, that historic context has been really interesting to me. And without a doubt, Vietnam has some historic context. I was born basically right as the war was ending, and so it's relatively recent history as far as I'm concerned. But even more than that, my dad, some of my uncles, and quite a few close family friends all served here. So Vietnam's a place that I've wanted to come to for a while. It's pulled on me for a bit. And I think it's not only because of that historic significance in the grand scheme of the world, but quite possibly for the family ties. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's pulled on me. So we're here. Today, here in Ho Chi Minh City, we went to the Relics Museum. And it was an interesting place to say the least. It was an emotional experience, I think, for all of us that went. And it struck me in a couple of different ways. First of all, the fact that here the war was called the American War, not the Vietnam War. That's something I never really thought about before, that there are obviously two sides, but that really never crossed my mind for some reason. But because this museum is done here in Vietnam, it's obviously, it all comes from the Vietnamese side. So some of the things that I grew up learning about, stories from family members and friends, they're not exactly portrayed the same way as they are in the museum. There's a little propaganda thrown in, but it, I do think, portrays a real account of what the war was like, which is graphic and gruesome and depressing. Yeah, it was a difficult place. The museum was interesting and depressing, and I'll just leave it at that.
But after a handful of days in the city, it was time.
All right, we're out of Ho Chi Minh City today. We're hopping on a bus going to Mui Ne.
These buses, they're known as coffins on wheels. And that's why we quickly found ourselves here.
Don't take a sleeper bus.
We actually tried to get on the bus. Jason and Brenda freaked out.
It was so scary. It was coffin. It was one of the tightest spots I've ever been in. And I live on a boat, so that tells you something.
So now we're trying to find a train to get us somewhere.
Since those coffins on wheels weren't built for someone the size of Jason the Giant, we found ourselves on this rickety old train, and we made it just in time.
We made it!
So for the next few hours, we kept ourselves pretty easily entertained and watched the Vietnam countryside roll by. And that's about it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Join us next time as we explore the beachside town of Mui Ne. That was the bumpiest train ever.